My life is measured in butter, sugar, and the exact, perfect temperature of proofing dough. I'm Leo. I own the Flour Mill, a small artisanal bakery that is my entire goddamn soul. My shop smells like cardamom, browning butter, and real actual comfort. I get here at 4 a.m. I work with my hands. I make things that make people happy. My world is warm, it's a little messy, and it's built on the glorious, non-negotiable truth that fat is flavor. My own personal, joyless, kale smoothie drinking antichrist moved in next door. The space had been empty for a year, and my dreams of expanding were shattered when the coming soon sign went up. Grid, functional fitness. I knew we were in trouble when they spent a week soundproofing. Then he showed up. His name was Mark. He was my polar opposite. He was a machine. He was all lean muscle, sharp angles, and the kind of disciplined, joyless energy that I found personally offensive. He'd be out front at 5 a.m., leading a pack of equally miserable-looking people in some kind of urban boot camp, yelling things like "engage your core" and "find your failure point." Our war was immediate, and it was cold. My 6 a.m. croissant baking smell, the one that used to drift down the street and make people happy, would hit his clients right as they were finishing their workout. I'd watch them, like tortured souls, staring at my window display of sticky buns while he yelled at them about empty calories. In return, his 5 p.m. gridcore class would start their music, a deep, relentless, thump-thump-thump of electronic bass that would rattle the antique, glass pastry case I'd inherited from my grandmother. We hated each other. He was the saint of self-denial. I was the purveyor of delicious, delicious poison. We had a truce that consisted of not making eye contact when we both took our trash out. The disaster struck on a Thursday. It was 8 p.m. I was alone in the bakery, prepping for the biggest order of my career. A 300 pastry order for the governor's charity breakfast. This was it. This was the order that could get me out of the red for the year. My mixers were churning. I had sheet pans of laminated dough, my beautiful, buttery, 81-layer croissant dough, chilling in the fridge. I was in the zone. Then I heard a hissing sound. It wasn't a good sound. It was coming from the back, from the tiny, shared utility closet that housed the water mains for both our buildings. I opened the door. It wasn't a leak. It was a geyser. A pipe, an old, fat, copper pipe in the shared wall, had burst. It was shooting a high-pressure, fan-shaped spray of cold water directly onto my main breaker box. Sparks flew, a loud zap crackle, and my entire bakery plunged into darkness. The mixers groaned to a halt. The refrigerators went silent. And the water was still gushing. It was already ankle-deep in the closet, and it was flooding out onto my bakery floor, heading straight for the 50-pound bags of imported French flour I kept stacked against the wall. I panicked. I was going to be ruined. My dough, my order, my flour. I didn't even think. I ran out my back door and started hammering on his. Mark, open up. He yanked the door open. He was in workout clothes, dripping with sweat, a towel around his neck. He looked annoyed. What? I'm in the middle of a class. We're flooding. I yelled, my voice a high-pitched, terrified squeak. The main pipe. It's going everywhere. It hit my breaker. The power is out. The annoyed look vanished, replaced by a sharp, sudden alarm. He didn't ask questions. He just grabbed a heavy, industrial flashlight from a hook by his door. The main shutoff is in your utility closet, right? Yes. It's in the wall. It's old. We ran. We splashed through the water on my bakery floor, which was now at least 2 inches deep. The flour was already lost, the bottom of the bags a dark, pasty, heartbreaking gray. He threw open the utility closet door. The flashlight beam cut through the dark, and it was a horror show. The water was a roaring, chaotic, horizontal rain. There, he yelled over the sound. He pointed the beam at the wall. There it was. A big, old, rust-covered, circular valve wheel. That's the main. We have to close it. He waded in. The water was up to his shins. He grabbed the wheel with both hands. He grunted, his muscles tensing. It's stuck. It's rusted shut. He tried again, his whole body torquing. The wheel didn't budge. Damn it. I can't get any leverage. My hands are slipping. Let me try. I yelled, wading in next to him. I was a baker. My hands were strong. I knew how to work stiff dough. I grabbed the wheel. I pulled. Nothing. It was fused with 100 years of rust and neglect. We were standing shoulder to shoulder in the tiny, dark, flooding closet. The water was rising. We were screwed. Together, he yelled, his voice a sharp drill sergeant command that cut through my panic. Both of us. On my count. We're going to push. I'm going to go right, you're going to go left. We're going to break it free. Ready? Ready. 1, 2, 3. We both yelled, a raw, primal sound of exertion. We put our entire, combined weight into it. I had my hands on the wheel, and he put his hands right on top of mine, his grip like a steel vise. We were a single unit, a single, desperate, straining machine. The combined, explosive force of a baker's endurance and a trainer's raw power. The wheel didn't move. Again, he roared. 1, 2, 3. Push. This time there was a sound. A high-pitched, metallic screech. The sound of rust breaking. The wheel turned. A single, agonizing inch. It's moving. I yelled. Don't stop. Again. Push. We found a rhythm. A desperate, frantic call and response. Push, screech. Push, screech. We were both breathing in ragged, ugly gasps. My hands were on fire, his knuckles grinding into mine. We were soaked, we were freezing, and we were winning. With one final lung-bursting grunt, the valve gave way. The wheel spun freely, and the deafening, roaring, catastrophic gush of water just stopped. The silence that fell was absolute. It was deafening. The only sound was the drip, drip, drip of the last few drops of water, and the sound of two men in a dark, tiny, flooded closet, breathing like they'd just run a marathon. We were still in the same position. My hands on the wheel, his hands on top of mine. We were pressed shoulder to shoulder, our bodies wired, our adrenaline singing. Holy shit, I panted, my forehead leaning against the cold, wet metal pipe. Yeah, he breathed. His voice was a low, rough rumble, right next to my ear. I hadn't realized how close we were. His flashlight was still on, but it was pointing at the floor, illuminating our legs, knee-deep in murky water. Our faces were in the dark. I could just see the outline of his face, inches from mine. I could feel the heat radiating off his body. He didn't move his hands. I didn't move mine. My flower is ruined, I whispered. It was a stupid, small, heartbreaking thing to say. I know, he said, his voice impossibly soft. I'm sorry. My dough. The wedding order. I know, Leo. I turned my head. He was already looking at me. His face was just a set of planes and shadows in the dark. We make a good team, I said. Yeah, he whispered. We do. He slowly, deliberately moved one of his hands. It left my hand, and for a second, I felt a flash of cold. But then his hand was on my face. His thumb was rough, calloused, and it was wiping the water, or maybe it was a tear, from my cheek. His touch was so gentle. It was the gentlest thing I had ever felt. You're a mess, man, he whispered, a small, shaky laugh in his voice. So are you, I whispered back. And then he leaned in, and I met him. The kiss was a disaster. It was clumsy. It was wet. It tasted of adrenaline and rust, and the cold, clean, metallic taste of the city water. His lips were chapped, and his beard was rough, and he was still holding my other hand, crushing it against the valve wheel. It was the most illogical, unprofessional, and absolutely, undeniably real thing that had ever happened to me. He pulled back just an inch. We were still in the dark, still in the water. My class, he breathed, his forehead resting against mine. My ovens, I breathed back. We just stood there, in the dark, in the ruins. And for the first time since he'd moved in, the war was over.